All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Redefining Society podcast, where we talk about society and technology and society, goes in a circle and then goes the other way around. And lately, more and more, I make this joke that if I don't have at least an episode about generative AI every two, I get in trouble with the law because the law is now to talk about that. And I truly enjoy it. I'm not the tech kind of guy, but, I like to look at how it's affecting society, creativity, the way we live, and the way we produce content, which I'm kind of going that direction because today we're going to talk about that. I am super excited about having James Maynard here on the show with me. He is a creator himself. He's a science communicator. We're going to probably touch on science and the cosmos and all the things that he does. And I have a high expectation, so no pressure. No, seriously. This is video and audio, so the person you heard laughing is James. How about you do a quick introduction about yourself so people are sure that I'm not making it up. You're really here.
Sure. My name is Charlie Periwinkle, and I'm from...
I got the guess wrong again. That's what I did. Damn it.
Let's see. My name is James Maynard, and I grew up around the space program. My dad designed electronics for first the Apollo and then the space shuttle programs, and but I also I've always had a passion for art and film and music and other forms of creativity. And so, when I was a kid, I put out a homemade magazine that my mother would, I'd write up a paragraph or two about the latest science stories I heard, and I'd draw up a cover for it and hand it to my mother, who'd go and Xerox it off for me. I'd go peddling it around the neighborhood, probably made about $2.50 a week,
As a kid, it's not too bad.
So it's not too bad, right. And so now I'm pretty much, so I've done all sorts of things, got degrees in physics and chemistry and run hundreds of star parties and written several books and yada, yada, yada. But now, but what my goal is still to blend together science, really great science with art, with film, with literature. And with the amazing, incredible power of storytelling. It's, I think that the best way to bring more science education into the world is to make people fall in love with science again. And the best way to do that is through the power of storytelling and art.
Absolutely agree, and that's why I was in between going on Audio Signals, which is one of the podcasts that talk about stories and storytelling and Redefining Society. But because we had this plan, maybe we'll do another episode to talk about that. But
love to.
I think the point is what you just said. It's you can't detach one from the other. You can't teach unless you have stories, and as some writers say, if you have a good story to tell, you're pretty good. But you also need to know how to tell it and have maybe the tools. So today we said we were going to focus not much on the Xerox process of back in the days, but the incredible power that come with the generative AI. So I know you've been experimenting quite a bit with that for your shows. So are you one of those that, I'm sure you're embracing it because you're using it. You're not just saying, yep, forget about this. But how do you feel is affecting the creators in general?
I think the best way to think of it is that generative AI is the greatest tool for the democratization of filmmaking since the invention of the movie camera. All right. When you look at these films, and I'm not going to pick on one particular film here, but I can name the title. I don't want to hear from their lawyers. But they went in. All right. But they went to film at an airport, and the director said, "Oh, no. I don't want this airport tower to be this color. I want it to be a different color." So they built an entirely new fake tower just so this thing could look slightly differently than the one that was already there. And it was hundreds of thousands of dollars in the early 70s.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And so these humongous budgets have had a couple of problems. And one of them is that too many movies now are being made for the sole purpose of making money for the investors. And when that happens, I feel like we lose a lot of the art and the storytelling and the magic that is great filmmaking. And nowadays, I'm spending a lot of time on the film circuits with a lot of, independent filmmakers. And the energy and the artistry that's coming out from people around the world is just truly revolutionary. It's astounding, and it's allowing people who could never before make more than the most basic movie, and giving them the power and the resources of major movie studios. Yeah. It's reduced the cost of filmmaking by probably 2 magnitudes, by 99%.
Yeah. So I like the democratization. Big fan of that. I mean, we've seen it in social media. We've seen it with the influencers. We've seen it with people able to create content, able to write, the blog, and don't have to go through somebody that is your agent and an editor. And I mean, you can put content out there. Now, somebody like me coming from before internet, which has become like, a time in our era, and studying mass media, one of the things that you can make a point is, okay, democratization is great, but do you lose quality? Like that filter, that barrier, is it a good thing or a bad thing in the long run? Like everybody can make movies, everybody can write, but is that all good or verified in terms of information and so on? So,
I think there's probably a couple different ways to take that question, and one is the quality as good as, if I want to shoot a scene, and use AI for backgrounds and what have you, is that as good as flying a whole film crew out to, Montreal, and I'm in Arizona, and paying all sorts of people and running up hotel bills, and, can you do things better the old-fashioned way? Right now, yes, if you're looking to get something highly realistic. But I think, first of all, the technology of AI is, of course, growing by leaps and bounds. I mean, 15, 18 months ago, when we were all first playing with DALL-E and the first, first public variation of ChatGPT, we thought that was really cool then, and it was, but that is primitive compared to, what we're seeing and able to do today. And 5 years down the line, it may be on par with doing a multi-million-dollar shot. But what's really, 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 really cool to me is that there are the limitations imposed on filmmakers and creators by where AI is now is helping people, and especially to create new styles, to create new ways of doing things, new ways of shooting. We're able to take advantage of old ways of doing things as well. Oh, I can't get this, person's face to look quite right while they're talking. Okay, great. I'll spin the whole thing around and do an over the shoulder shot. So you're only seeing the back of the person's head. Problem solved.
Yeah.
And I just love the new styles that people are coming up with now.
Yeah.
And the way this technology allows people to form new ways of doing things and new styles. I just adore it.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, and I actually I get what you said. Like, there's two ways to respond, because quality may be the quality of, as you outlined, the quality of the product, or the quality of the creative input, and not just the output, but the story itself. I mean, you still need that creativity.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? So, tell me the way that you use it, right? So you talk about the first version of DALL-E, and I agree. I'm like, can I actually use this even to make a cover for, But it was fascinating. It still created something from my input, my prompt. So, it was already cool. But yeah, this is 18 years ago, and now we are a completely different level. So how did you grow in the way that you were using that and applying to your content that you do for your job?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And I am what is called an app smasher. I don't use just one app for anything. I will create, use this to set up the basic scene, use that other completely different system to do the sound, put music on with a third, move this all around, pan and zoom with another app, And so, but generally speaking, I find there are four systems that are really, really incredible right now to me, which are Midjourney, which excels at creating really good still images. And then there's Runway, which does a similar thing with videos, except to me, I think Midjourney does better to start with, and then Runway is able to take over the video from there. There's Suno, which has just made the last version of it, I think it's version 3, has just made leaps and bounds in its creation, its ability to create music. And then there's 11 Labs, which creates voices, allows you to do dialogue. So a typical thing for me might be, say, create a character in Midjourney and create a background for them separately. Bring the character into Runway and make it move a little bit naturally, and then add a voice using Suno, but that has to be put in through Runway so you can make the lip sync, and that comes over to Suno, for the music. 11 Labs is the voice, and then that all gets mixed in a typical digital audio workstation type thing, where you'll see, this video clip, that video clip, and this audio clip, and that, move them all any which way you want. So so I've talked with several filmmakers around the world who are doing AI-powered films and educational materials. And that's getting to be a pretty standard combination for people. Those four are pretty powerful together.
So here's the vision that I had in my mind when you're showing me this visual of a storyboard, where you use 4 different or more probably apps, and then you have one process. I just recently read a biography of Walt Disney, and it made me think about, the power of animation in creating, the impossible. The thing that you couldn't create in real life, you go into animation and you can actually create kind of what you want. So it make the vision so less constrict in a way. I don't know.
Right.
I mean, do you see that?
Absolutely.
It's kind of like that sci-fi is becoming reality, and then what is sci-fi any longer?
Right. And speaking of sci-fi, perfect example of this is Star Trek. Long before the days of AI or even anything we would call CGI or pretty much anything we call special effects. These people, Gene Roddenberry and the crew were trying to put on a really, really cool sci-fi show, which had never really been done before, on building models. Every time you wanted to show a spaceship, you had to build a model of it and fly it along a string in front of a star, piece of star chart, and so the studio, the network, deciding that this was far too expensive to pay people to make all these models and dress people up in silly costumes and paint them green. Just started cutting their budget over and over again. So then we get to the 3rd season of the original Star Trek, and we're having basically one-shot shows of episodes of space hippies, and so those Herberts really took down Star Trek by starving it of funds. All right. And now we no longer need to build these sets. We no longer need to dye people green. All right. We could do that all in front of a green screen, like the one behind me, and post-production. And using AI, you can get a really powerful suite of things for let's say a few $100 a month. Filmmakers are no longer held hostage to the financiers, and I think that's going to be pretty amazing for bringing science back, for educational materials and entertainment.
Now, when you talk about these things, I mean, you're mixing kind of the big budget that then eventually become less budget, as you said about Star Trek. As you're describing that, I'm thinking like the lighting and magic from George Lucas, and how that entire system was also about inventing, in the lab, the physical aspect of the filming, and then computer came in, CGI came in, they got smaller and smaller, the people hammering on stuff, and bigger and bigger, the people typing on stuff.
Little tiny hammers.
A little tiny camera that goes through the canyon and all of that. And so many people now are like, well, they're taking jobs away. Yeah, well, it's taking jobs away, but it's kind of redistributing the jobs. So to the people that are against generative AI, because it allows to do things with smaller budget without involving certain kind of knowledge, I mean, what is your reaction to that? Because they're definitely on the side of welcoming this, clearly. I don't think I misread you. So to the people that are a little bit more on the conservative side, what's your answer to that?
Yeah, things, industries and technologies change over time, and that's a great thing. The first computers, with like ENIAC, were built with these vacuum tubes, and there were just tens of thousands of vacuum tubes in each box, and boxes filling up warehouses. And, I'm willing to bet that the vacuum tube industry was quite the thing back in 40s, 50s. But then you get the invention of the transistor.
Yep.
That put the vacuum tube people out of business pretty quickly. But the amount of jobs created in electronics and computer engineering and computer science skyrocketed. And so I think that, nobody is a monoculture. People who are working at these huge industries can actually probably reposition skills in other ways, either creating their own film houses, or creating their own new ways of doing things. 3D films, there's so much technology and so much space to open up new ways of doing things. I think that that this really is going to change things. But I think all in all, when you look at it over the big picture, there's some amazing opportunities out there, and I just want to see these tens of millions of other people who who currently cannot do anything, being given this huge amount of access. I think it's a good thing.
No, that definitely for the creators. I agree with you. And let's talk about this. I mean, you look back. You told me at the beginning, before we start recording, one of your first book was actually looking at the Roman Empire, and your background is chemistry and physics. And so now we're talking about movie making and entertainment. So in a way, we like to wear different hats. I think when you find passion in something, you just go and learn it. So I'm not saying everybody go and learn something new, but don't sit on a knowledge that nowadays is going to change. Industry like cybersecurity, you never finish learning. Industry like computer science. And now, obviously, we're not using the same camera we did The Wizard of Oz. Right. That's
exactly.
Big. I've seen it.
Exactly.
It's really big. And that was, anyway, the first color movie. And probably people were like, what the hell, color? Who needs color? But my point is change. If we didn't change, we will be still, I don't know, in caves. Somebody has to disrupt something.
Yeah, there was a time not long ago, 50, 75 years ago, when many people were still arguing about whether or not photography should be considered art. And now through all the amazing, photographers and Ansel Adams and Annie Leibovitz, and, you see, there's no way of denying that is art. And, but there was a time when people were saying, "Oh, all you do is just point the camera and snap," and it's just so much more to that. I mean, I've taken an online video course with Annie, and she's just the depth of what is possible with photography is just astonishing. It really is. And, and there are a lot of people now who say, oh, well, all you do with AI is just tell it to give you a picture of a pumpkin in space wearing a top hat. And
that's pretty cool.
Well, that's kind of where you start. And, and then you run it through iterations and go through different versions and yada, 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 yada. Yeah. But I think this type of thing that we're seeing, this backlash that's coming from about AI now, is just another form of what we've seen many, many, many times before. There was outrage about the invention of the bicycle. And now they just
And the
seem so,
cars. I
yeah,
mean, people losing job because they were using the horses. Well,
right. Another perfect example.
yeah, but
And
I love the photo one because the photographer one. My uncle was a photographer. I remember he was teaching in school,
mhm.
and I had fun as a kid going in his lab and developing the
Right.
film and
Oh, I love
the
that. I
smell
love that.
of
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
acid and hanging it and the magic of seeing the on white paper the image materialize, right? I mean, so
I love the smell of Fixer in the morning.
I, I don't know how good it was for our health, but anyway, that was kind of fun. And then you were shooting, like I don't know, in fashion, and you had a finite number of shot in the film. And sure, you had to be good because you weren't just shooting 600,000 shot on a digital camera.
Right,
But
right,
again,
right.
that progression has always been there. So the people that were against photography at the beginning, that was it art. Then when the digital camera came out, it's like, oh my God, now that it was art until digital, now it's not. Now it's in your phone.
Right.
But still, I can see if something is a good picture or not. I don't. It's not the tool. It's the people that use that tool, the vision that they
Absolutely.
have,
Right,
right?
right, right.
And people need to
And
understand that with AI.
yes, yes, absolutely. And and like I said, there are, I don't know, I know I've said this before, but it's just these new styles of filmmaking that are coming about now, partly because of the limitations of what we're currently able to do with AI, are just another could be another new age of filmmaking. Painting went through all sorts of different ages: Post-Surrealism, Impressionism, post-realism, whatever. And film is much, much younger, but we still have, the early age of, Edison's films and, the great golden age in the 30s and 40s, Wizard of Oz, the film noir um, era, through all sorts of psychedelic era of the late 60s. Do I really need to watch The Monkeys in Head again? Maybe. Through the ultra realism of the 70s, sci-fi, Star Wars, and so just like painting went through all these ages, so does filmmaking, and the tech, and that is driven partly by technology, black and white cameras, color cameras, really good microphones, and everything interacts with one another. And the way that generative AI is affecting film and education now, I think has huge, huge potential.
Yeah, I love that. Another thing that people, you're kind of going there too. It's like contextualizing what you see, right? If I watch Casablanca and I look at the way they use the lighting, the shadow on the wall, and what they do, right? I can't say that's better than or worse than a Marvel movie now. It's just different, right? Is there quality? There is something I like. I need to contextualize in what they had at the time. If I look at Ansel Adams' photo, it may not be as well defined as a 4K, image right now. But that's
Right.
not the point. The point
Right,
is
exactly.
what were these people doing with the tech given to them at that time?
Exactly right.
And now it's what you're saying is like the things that we can do now, we couldn't even think about it before. But the thing
We
you
couldn't
can do
think
with
about this 2
CGI,
years ago.
yeah. So it's actually an exciting moment, I think, to be alive. I would like to know what ET, the extraterrestrial, would have been with AI. Right? I mean, Am I gonna make it
Or
go through
or
the
the
moon
original,
with the bike?
right, there you go. Or go back further, the original Wizard of Oz. Imagine that
Yeah.
all being done with AI. And actually, speaking of which, another classic that would come to mind would have been Willy Wonka. But the newest version of Willy Wonka is actually pretty good. I don't know if you've seen it, but so I think that as we go on, this technology is going to drive art and education and storytelling in ways that we can't imagine now.
Nope.
So,
Yeah, it's a new version of something. You just another good example you just made. It's how many Willy Wonka have been remade, how many other movies been remade just because now you can do something different. It's not, again, not better than the first one, but
right.
different. It's a different vision given by the new technology that you have, and maybe you come up with something completely unpredictable. And that's art, right? That's cool. So
Right.
talking about unpredictability, what do you have in your near future in terms of creation? This last 5 minutes, what's up in James' to-do list?
Excuse me. First, I have a weekly science comedy interview show, The Cosmic Companion, and just search for The Cosmic Companion. You'll find me in whatever outlet you're on. And I also create little short films every now and again. One most recent one is called Moonbeams, about two women living on the moon who decide to build the moon's first coffee shop.
Nice,
Called Moonbeams. And now I'm actually working on two feature-length films powered by AI. The first of them is called Gaia Rising, and it's a future history of climate change. It's a sci-fi story about three very different people from around the world who need to come together to offset some of the worst climatic changes happening in the world at their time. And the second is called The Wizard and the Scholar, or A Rapscallion Runs Amok in Rye. And this film, which I'm wearing the first T-shirt, thank you very much, is actually set in the year 1156 in Rye, England, when two women, both of whom are on their own search for home and truth, need to come together with the most famous thief in history, Robin Hood, to solve a tragic murder and save the town of Rye from even darker threats. And so I'm hoping to have The Wizard and the Scholar out at the Halloween weekend. I have penciled in Halloween weekend this year, and sometime probably spring for Gaia Rising. And so in each of those films, I try my best to spread knowledge using entertainment. Gaia Rising, of course, talks a lot about these climatic changes that could happen, how people might react to them, how government might react to them. You'll notice I separated government from people. That was not a mistake. And of course, The Wizard and the Scholar takes, even though the main characters are fictional and Robin Hood was legendary based on a few different people, all the events happening around them our actual history that was going on around that era. So I hope to teach a little bit about history, science, and what it was like to live in the middle of the 12th century.
I like it. Two very different topics, so you can experiment with different things, and at the same time, it's kind of like what you. I mean, can you confirm that everything you do has always some kind of educational, scientific, or historical?
I try.
Driven vision, right? You don't
that's my
something
goal.
completely off the hook. You want to have a goal, an educational goal with it.
Yes, but I don't want to be obvious about it.
I don't think you are. and I think that's what makes you special. And I think that also the reason why people like you are really welcoming this new technology and feel that need of experimenting with things. So I think it's important, and I think that I hope that people that listen to this, now they go out there, they take one of the app that you just mentioned and they start playing with it. And maybe even people that didn't want to touch it with a fishing pole, before you critic, just give it a go. You're gonna be amazed, for sure.
Yeah. I was gonna say, actually, the Wizard and the Scholar I co-wrote with Pi, which is another language model. And it was like working with a human writing partner. Pi produced literally about 200 pages of notes and script ideas and story ideas and dialogue, and it was amazing. It was like having a writing partner that I could talk to at 1 a.m. when I'm like, wait a minute, I figured out the ship has to go this way in order to. Oh, you're right. We should do this, it's amazing.
Yeah, I had a few conversations driving with ChatGPT and say, what if we do this? And, on the app on the phone and having a conversation until it says, you exhausted all your credit for that. And you're like,
get those messages daily. Fine, another $4. Click.
Yeah. It's like playing video games. I almost broke the record. Let me put another coin in there and see what I can do. Well, James, a lot of fun. I think a lot of interesting conversation and point, and I hope people will enjoy you. I will have all the links to your LinkedIn, social media, website, and the Cosmic Companion and all of that in the notes. And I hope that they will stay tuned. Hopefully you'll come back and we'll talk about other things about the storytelling. This was the Redefining Society podcast. James, thank you again for being with us. And thank you to all the listeners. I hope they
thank you, Marco.
will enjoy. And they also check your show because this is about helping each other as well. When you do this podcast, it's a good thing. Thank you again.
Absolutely. Stay tuned, all right, thank you, Marco. All right, thanks, everyone. Bye-bye. All right, bye-bye.